Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Priyanka Neela Krishnan Show. This is Enterprise Security Series, episode 32. You can't count your own robots. So, here is a number you know cold, your head count. How many people work at your company? HR can tell you to the person. Finance knows what each one costs. Facilities knows which door they badge through on a Tuesday morning, and that number is tracked, owned, and reviewed. Now, here is a number almost nobody in your building can give you. How many AI agents work at your company? Not roughly, exactly. How many service accounts, API keys, bots, co-pilots, and autonomous agents are running right now, holding credentials, touching your data, acting on your behalf? Ask that in a leadership meeting and watch the room go quiet. Because the honest answer in most enterprises is that nobody knows. You have hired a second workforce and you never put it on the org chart. This used to be a rounding error, a handful of service accounts the platform team kept an eye on. That era is over. The mission identities in a typical enterprise now outnumber the human ones by a wide margin. CyberArk's 2025 identity study, which surveyed 2,600 security leaders around the world, put that ratio at roughly 80 to 1 and found nearly half of those machine identities hold sensitive or privileged access. So the math is brutal and simple. The population you govern carefully, your people, is now the small minority. The population you barely govern at all, your machines and your agents, is the overwhelming majority. An agentic AI just poured fuel on it. Because every agent you deploy does not get one tidy identity. It spawns sub-agents, it calls APIs, it picks up credentials at runtime. One decision to adopt and hundreds of new identities you never see. Let me be precise about why this is dangerous, because the scale alone is not the story. An AI agent is not a passive account sitting quietly in a directory. It is an autonomous actor. It acquires permissions dynamically. It chains actions across systems and it holds credentials that never sleep. Here is the part that should keep you up at night. Those credentials do not get offboarded. A human being has a last day. Someone walks them out, disables the account, collects the laptop. An agent has no last day. Research from Rubrik's Zero Labs found that a large share of non-human identities are more than a year old with no credential rotation and a meaningful percentage have no owner at all in the HR system. The person who created them left the company. The agent stayed. It is still running, still authenticated, still holding access, and there is no human left who even remembers it exists. This is not a fringe concern anymore, and I want to give you the receipts so you can check them yourself. Roughly two-thirds of enterprises, by recent industry data, have already suffered a breach through a compromised non-human identity. OWASP, the group that writes the security standards much of our industry runs on, published its first top 10 for agentic applications in December of 2025. An identity and privilege abuse for agents sits right near the top of that list as ASI 03. And on sheer scale, Microsoft has said that users of just one of its products, Copilot Studio, have collectively created More than million agents, a million. Just imagine. That is one product from one vendor. Now imagine the count across every SaaS tool, every internal platform, and every clever developer who wired something up on a Friday afternoon. So here is the reframe I want to leave you with. And it is going to sound almost too simple. Before you buy a single new security tool for AI, before you write another policy, you do the least glamorous thing in all of security. You take a census, not a scan that runs once and spits out a PDF body that nobody reads. A living census. Because here is my actual thesis. In security, visibility is not a nice to have that arrives after the real controls. Visibility is the first control, and every other control you own, least privilege, monitoring, revocation, incident response, all of it silently assumes you already have a list of what you are protecting. You do not. And the attacker's very first move is to find the identity you forgot you had. So, what does a real census look like? I tie every non human identity to four things, and I would challenge you to hold your own environment to this bar. 1. An owner, a specific human being who is accountable for this agent, not a team, not some person, just one owner, a person. 2. A purpose, the single job this agent exists to do, written down in plain language. Number 3. A data scope, exactly what it is allowed to touch, with everything outside that scope of limits by default. And number 4, an expiry, a date when this identity's access dies on its own unless a human deliberately renews it. Owner, purpose, scope, and expiry. These four things: owner, purpose, scope, and expiry. If you cannot produce those four facts for every agent in your environment, you do not have a governance program. You have a hope. If you do one thing this week, do this. Pick your most sensitive system, your crown jewel data store, and pull the list of every non-human identity that it can reach. So, all the non-human identity that can reach that crown jewel, that's the data sensitive system, right? Just to figure out, take the list. Just one system. Just focus on that one system and all of the non-human identities that can reach that one system. I promise you two things will happen. You will find identities on that list that nobody in the room can explain. Like, why is this specific identity coming to this system, my sensitive system? Why is it coming to here? And that quiet, uncomfortable moment where four smart people stare at an entry and admit they have no idea what it is, that moment is the entire reason this episode exists. We spent 30 years hardening the human perimeter and we got genuinely good at it. And while we were perfecting the locks on the front door, we quietly hired an entire workforce that comes and goes through the back, through the API at all hours and never signs in. You cannot govern a population you have not counted. So count your robots. It is the least exciting sentence in enterprise security, and it is the one everything else depends on. I am Priyanka Neela Krishnan, and if this changed how you see your environment, please subscribe. And because across the next 4 episodes, we'll follow this exact thread all the way down. Once you can finally see your agents, the next problem is that you cannot watch them. That is where we go next, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, this is me, Priyanka Neela Krishnan, signing off. Bye.